Welcome to Teach the Truth, Speak the Truth. Greetings. My name is Gwandine, and I would just like to discuss the subject of Aliyah, the return of Jews to Jerusalem. A lot of Jews have been returning to Jerusalem. I recently read where a group of Jews have decided to return to Jerusalem due to the high anti Semitism that is taking place in this country. I do recall a time when I was a young girl, and even all the way up to being a young woman, where Jews were welcomed in the United States. I did not recall reading the level of anti Semitism as it is expressed in these last days. Um, in fact, I don't recall any anti Semitism. If there was anti Semitism taking place back then, like in the 50s and 60s, and even the 70s, it must have been pretty low key because I don't recall reading any news article or hearing it as being on the level like it is now. I remember growing up in Columbus, Ohio, where Jews were allowed to live freely. I shouldn't even use the word allow. They were citizens and they could live freely in Columbus, Ohio. They prospered, and I remember some of the best attorneys were Jewish attorneys. God had kept his promise to them. When he promised to prosper them, he kept his promise. They were very prosperous in my home city, and they owned the Federated department stores. And for the most part, like I said, I just never heard of any anti Semitism taking place back then. A lot of people shopped at the Federated department stores like Lazarus, Schottenstein's, just different department stores that were owned by Jews. And I remember there were Jewish attorneys who were very prosperous, very knowledgeable in the legal field. And in fact, I presently work in the legal field, and I still remember just, their level of knowledge and expertise. They prospered in the movie industry. It's just various areas where God kept his promise to prosper the Jews. And now, with the rise of anti Semitism in this country, several of the Jews are leaving. They are making Aliyah back to their homeland, Israel. And I really can't say that I blame them. I don't blame them at all. I mean, I know that there's war going on in Israel. There's a lot of war torn areas there. And I read where the group that was going over recently, returning to Israel, they didn't care because they just felt like it would be best if they would return to Israel. And again, I can't say that I blame them. It seems like a great deal of it involves, I'm not trying to be funny, but the Democratic Party. It seems like all of this has just really escalated, and including the I can't even pronounce his name. I don't know if it's Mandemi or Mandami, who is running for office in the state of New York, and he has already made known his intentions. And his intentions, he is anti-Jew, he's anti-Christ, and I mean, he doesn't like saints. I mean, and he's very socialistic, and he's already made it very clear as to where he stands. And I cannot believe that he is running for office in New York. It's just crazy, all the things that are going on. And There are a lot of Jews in New York, and I can fully understand why they don't feel safe. But I'm just going to go over a few passages of scriptures where God knew that these things would take place, and He is going to return. I don't know if all the Jews are going to return to Jerusalem and Israel. I really don't know. But for example, Jeremiah 23, verse, I'm going to say 3. It says, "And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of the countries whither I have driven them, and I will bring them." Let me move this over just a little bit. "I will bring them again to their foes, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord." So I just read from Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 3 and 4. There's numerous scriptures, and I'm not going to take the time to read all of them, but I'm just going to read some. For example, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11. "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, and from Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth." Now, Judah is where the name Jew is derived from. So God is going to gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. And I'll read this one. Let's see. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 24. "For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of the countries, and will bring you into your own land." Again, that's Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 24. And I'll read one more from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, and I'll start at verse 3. "That then the Lord thy God shall turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. And if any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live." Now, there are numerous scriptures again that read that the Lord is going to gather the Jews and return them unto the land, his land, the land of Israel and Jerusalem. So now this last passage that I read in Deuteronomy, although it talks about gathering them and having compassion upon them, this also sounds like it could also pertain to under what man has termed as being the Old Testament. I mean, although it's a scripture out of the Old Testament, it could have pertained back then, but I read it anyway because it still talks about that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. So God is compelling his people to return to Jerusalem, to return to their homeland. He knew that all the anti-Semitism was going to take place and that the Jews would be hated. They are hated by so many nations, and even NATO isn't on their side. I don't trust NATO. They are not on their side. They don't stand for Jesus Christ, they don't stand for saints, and they don't stand for Jews or Israelites. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here, but I just wanted to just expound a little bit on a recent news article that I came across, that the Jews are returning to their homeland. They have been returning to their homeland in groups for years, but it's starting to become more prevalent. So God bless you. If it's God's will, I will do another recording next time.